wellness of the students in higher education also are with many conditions. So I know some of us have been, doing a lot of, great work of bringing mindfulness to our young people. So I would, kind of invite those of you, some of us who are educators or administrators who would like to support and bring mindfulness to our students' life to, enhance, to support their wellness. I would say we must also first bring our mindfulness to see clearly the conditions that support or not support their wellness, and then respond to these conditions accordingly. Now, in my teacher's, Thich Nhat Hanh's teaching, he talked about engaged Buddhism. So if I may allow myself to coin, kind of adapt that, a little from my teacher, I would like to add engaged mindfulness. And so that when we talk about mindfulness or when we talk about, meditation, it's not just a pill that, Ashley mentioned. A pill, I just, pop it into my mouth and I'm all calm. It doesn't exist. And Ashley already found that. It takes a lot of hard work. And also, hard work as well as patience and resilience and persistence. So that, mindfulness or meditation or tea ceremony is not just a technique, not just a tool, like a de-stressing or calming pill. Rather, in this very stressful world, I would like to say, I would like to invite some of us, especially educators, who would like to bring mindfulness to our students to support their wellness, to also look at, the conditions. Bring our mindfulness to those conditions as well, to the interbeing of the present moment, to the interbeing of their wellness. So there is a story, the river story. I don't know if you have heard about that someone found, one day walking by the river, found many people. How come many people floating on the river and get drowned? So, the compassionate heart, okay, I need to save everybody's soul, from pull them out of the river. And then just keep doing it, but people keep coming, floating downstream. I would think we need to, in addition to pulling those people, up, kind of out of the river and not get drowned, we also need to go upstream and see why so many people fell into the river in the first place. So I would like to bring our mindfulness also to the upstream as well as to, the current situation as well. So if I may have the first slide. So now I'm not going to give you a pretty scenario. Let me give some bad news, and then hopefully I'll, end with a better, good news. So this is just a couple of tables that I would like to show you the current situation of our students in higher education. This is a 2013 National College Health Assessment. This is from the Canadian side. And then 32 colleges and universities participate, and almost about 34,000 response. Okay. Now, they have a list of many diagnoses. I only pick out, 2. Or 3 for your attention, because the rest actually are 0. Some percent. Now the good news is, first good news, within the in this survey, people asked within the last 12 months, the students who responded to the survey, they have diagnosed or was treated by a professional for the following. Now, none of the above still is the highest percentage, which is 77.7% for female, and total female and male together 80.2%. Now, out of that, there is some concerning number. Students who experience anxiety or diagnosed with anxiety concern or disorder, if I use a psychiatric term, 12.3% anxiety. I think this anxiety actually is more than being socially anxious. what Ashley was, kind of sharing with us. And then 10% said that, they were diagnosed with depression. And then 5-point-some% was, actually had panic attack. I actually had students in my classroom all of a sudden had a panic attack and had to rush out, of the classroom. So it happened. But, this is some of the current situation. Still, the good news is 80% say they have none, but it could be they were not diagnosed. Oops. Okay, and then also at the second table, students reported experiencing the following in last 12 months. So feel things were hopeless, 23%, feel very lonely, 23%, overwhelming anxiety, 21%, quite high. And almost like 1 out of 5 students. Felt depressed that cannot function, 17.4. Now, the last one, even though it is small percentage, but even 1 is too big, too large, that seriously considered suicide. Why are our young people getting into this state? This is the last table. I don't want to overwhelm you with tables. Within the last 12 months, students reported the following that affect their academic performance. Now, academic performance is one of the source of their stress. So you can, this is by the order of the percentage. So of course the highest is the more generic, stress, 40%. But you notice actually I particularly highlight a few things here in red, and I would consider those as some of the contributors to their state of so-called unwellness. Internet use and computer game. Work, that, their work. Our students have to work. Actually, many of my students work multiple part-times. They have to. And why? Relationship difficulty and also finances. So I just want to highlight, I don't have too much time to go into great detail, so I won't. And those that I highlight is something that, I'm thinking maybe we can do something about. Okay. So why? I asked the question, why are our students, experiencing, these states of, kind of stress or anxiety or depression or even seriously consider suicide? Now, there are many conditions that actually constitute to their unwellness. Let me talk about unwellness for a while. There are many, but today, because of time, I'm only going to focus on a few. The number one, of course, I mentioned about academic performance, academic demand. Students are feeling more and more stress. They want to get high grade, high, score. Why? Because they know what is going to happen out there. Our students actually, know what is happening in the society. There are not many jobs, and they actually want to get a good grade so that they can get into graduate, kind of studies, so then they have a better chance to get, more, a better job, a more secure state. Okay. And then if I want to kind of point that to, and, kind of go back a little, it points to, okay, what is going on in our job market right now? And as I mentioned, many of my students, actually, they work multiple part-time, and the student debt, actually, there's a calculation in 2014, the average student debt that students carry when they graduate is about $27,000. Now, in Ontario, now we have an MP today here, I don't know if she is still here, but in Ontario, I don't know how many of you know that actually our youth unemployment rate is the highest. Compared to, other, the average Canadian youth unemployment rate. And yet our tuition fee is actually the second highest in the country on average. And the government, the Ontario government, the contribution, they give to, university revenue actually is the second lowest. So these are the larger situations, larger conditions that contribute our students' unwellness. The other one you hear from our students, saying that, internet use or relationship. I'm given a sheet here that I'm running late, so I need to kind of really rush through. Now, some of the, Ashley mentioned, okay, I'm anxious now, let me get my iPhone out. I'm feeling lonely. Some of the students feel lonely, let me use, kind of get on the internet. So, but the thing is, this kind of ways to get on the internet, get on my iPhone, get on, Facebook, actually, it's just a quick fix pill, which actually doesn't really take us out of our stress. It actually makes us even more stressful. It's only a distraction rather than really a help. So I would say, okay, then as educators, what can we do? Now I'm wrapping up. What can we do as educators to support the conditions for our students' wellness? Now, for the macro, the larger situation about, job market and tuition fee and, government budget, we may not be able to do too much about it, except one thing, when we vote. Now we may become more aware, bring our mindfulness and our awareness to the larger condition, that who are we going to vote that would support our young people's wellness. That's one. And then in terms of the micro context, that, so since some of our students mentioned about relationship difficulty, social media or, kind of internet use kind of take away their attention and get them stressed and, affect their academic performance, which is, basically a vicious cycle. Then can we bring mindfulness, not just sitting on the cushion, but bring mindfulness to how we use the internet, to how we use social media, to how we text, to how we communicate with our loved ones, with our peers. So I would like to close with maybe just one last mindfulness training that my teacher actually highlight is the mindfulness of consumption. So if I have, this is very long. Traditionally, actually, this is the fifth precept in the Buddhist practice, which basically just talk about no alcohol. But actually, what is alcohol is consumption. Why people get into alcohol? So the same thing, why people get into TV, why people get into internet. Aware of the suffering caused by unmindful consumption, I'm committed to cultivating good health, both physical and mental, for myself, my family, and my society, by practicing mindful eating, drinking, and consuming. I will practice looking deeply into how I consume the four kinds of nutriments, namely edible foods, sense impressions, volitions, and consciousness. I'm determined not to gamble or to use alcohol, drugs, or any other products which contain toxins, such as certain websites, electronic games, TV programs, films, magazines, books, and conversations. I will practice coming back to the present moment to be in touch with the refreshing, healing, and nourishing elements in me and around me, not letting regrets and sorrow drag me back into the past, nor letting anxieties, fear, or craving pull me out of the present moment. I'm determined not to try to cover up loneliness, anxiety, or other suffering by losing myself in consumption. I will contemplate interbeing and consume in a way that preserves peace, joy, and well-being in my body and consciousness, and in the collective body and consciousness of my family, my society, and the earth. So let me end here. I'm actually making a big jump. Basically, what I want to introduce is that mindfulness has to be engaged, and it's engaged mindfulness that, kind of engage with the interbeing of the present moment, the interbeing of our wellness, and actually also unwellness, and then to look deeply into it and so that we know how to respond, in addition to being here, breathing, and sitting calmly. That is very important because that is the first step for us to be able to see clearly what is really happening and what can really help us to get out of the situation, the big knot that Ashley showed us before this. Thank you.